Welcome to the next lecture of the HTML. In today's lesson, we will continue from where we have left into the last lecture. We had created form. So this is the form part 2. We had seen lots of form elements into the web page. We had created a text box. We had created checkboxes, radio buttons, this drop down list. We had created this text area, this choose file, the buttons we had added the date and time choose file. We had created this range, and then we had created the reset and other buttons. So let's continue today and let's talk about some important attributes that we use with these okay, that we use with these particular tags. So we'll talk about some important attributes. So this is the input value attribute. So this is one of the important attributes that specifies an initial value for an input field. So let's say if we have this text box, so if you want to specify some initial value to the user, then we need to add the value attribute here. So let me add this value attribute into this text box. So this is input type text box. We had already added this. So let me add this value attribute and let me write inside that enter your name. So this is the value attribute. Let me save it and go back and refresh. And now you can see that this is already written here into the text box. So this is the initial value that can be specified to this particular text field. So let's talk about the next attribute that we can use in the HTML. The next attribute is the read only attribute that specifies that an input field is read only. That means we will not be able to make any changes into this. This is the read only attribute. So let me add this read only attribute. Let's say if I use this email and I'll add this read only attribute into this, that means we will not be able to make any changes into this email field. So now this is read only. You can see that I'm typing letters, but I'm not able to write anything into this email field. On the other hand, I'm able to write something into other fields, but I'm not able to write anything into the email field. That is why, because it's the read only field and we will not be able to edit into this. So let me check the next attribute that we can use. This is the disabled attribute. So disabled attribute is used to specify that an input field should be disabled. So when we do not want user to do anything into that particular field, so we use this disabled. So let me use this disabled field with the, let's say, the password. And if I want to use disabled attribute, if I use this disabled attribute with the password field, now let me go back and refresh and you can see the password field has changed. Now I'm not able to do anything because the field is disabled. So disabled attribute is used for disabling any component into the HTML file. Next is the size attribute that specifies the visible width in characters of the input field. So if I apply this size attribute with let's say if I apply this with the search, okay, if I apply with the search and if I apply size is equal to 10. So if I mention size is equal to 10 in the search input box, so you can see the size has been reduced and the visible length is 10. So if I write A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N. So you can see now this is incrementing, but at a moment the visible number of characters are 10. So this is the size of the search field. We can increment the size as per our need. We can use 20, so this will increase, so this visibility will increase from 10 to, now you can see this is 20. So this is the size attribute. Next is the max length attribute. Specify the maximum number of characters allowed in an input field. So maximum number of characters that are allowed into the field. So if I instead let me use instead let's say if I enable or let me use this into this okay, in the first one, let me use in the first one, and if I use max length is equal to, let's say, 5. So if this is a max length, then if this is a max length, then we will not be able to enter. So let me remove this. So 1 2 3 4 5. So you can see I'm trying to input more letters, but I'm not able to input more letters. So this will restrict the maximum number of characters that can be input into this field is 5. So if I write tech L, then we'll not be able to write anything else. So this is the max length attribute that will restrict the maximum number of characters allowed in an input field. Similarly, we have the input min and max attributes that specifies the minimum and maximum values for an input field. We can also use the multiple attribute that specify that the user is allowed to enter more than one values in an input field. This is specifically in the case of the email and in the case of the file fields. So if we supply this multiple, then only we will be able to choose multiple things. So let me add this with the file attribute and show you let's say where is the file attribute. So we have this input file attribute, and let me show you currently if I use this file attribute choose file, I will be able to choose only one file. You can see I'll not able to choose more than one file simultaneously. So this is the restriction. But if I supply this multiple attribute with this file, and sorry, this is multiple, and if I supply this is multiple attribute with this, then we can see I'll refresh, and now if I'll choose file and I am able to select, you can see I'm able to select more than one files, and I can open more than one files into these. You can see this is number of files, 4 files. So this will allow us to select multiple files in one go. So this is the multiple attribute. So that can be used with some input types, that is email and file specifically. The next is the placeholder attribute specifies a short hint that describes the expected value. So it's one of the very useful attribute that we can use. So whenever we want user a hint that what we want, what we expect from you. Let's say if I use this email and if I use this contact, let me input in the contact. So placeholder is equal to, let's say, enter your WhatsApp number. So I have given a message, enter your WhatsApp message. So now let me go back and refresh and just see in the contact field. So you can see this is a placeholder, right? So we can override this placeholder. The difference between the value attribute, that value attribute is an initial value. We need to erase this and then change it. But this placeholder is just a hint. So it's not the initial value. It's just a hint that you can, what you need to enter into this particular field. So this is the placeholder attribute. The next is the required attribute that restrict the user in at least adding some information to the particular field. Let's say if I use required here into the name, so I'll not be able to submit the form without entering any value into this name field. Let's say if I use this name field and if I'll try to submit the form, then you have a message, please fill out this field. So this is the importance of the required attribute that will not allow us to submit the form until and unless we fill some data into this particular field. So this is the uh, required attribute and is another important attribute when we talk about the forms. And then is the autofocus. So let's say if you want on some field that the focus, let's say if I refresh this, so now the focus is nowhere. And if I want, once the form is later loaded, the focus should automatically be into this email field. So let me use this autofocus. So I'll use with the email and I'll supply autofocus. So and once I'll refresh, you can see once I'll refresh, the focus is automatically onto this email field. So once the page is loaded, the focus is automatically into this email field. And if I change this autofocus from email, let's say if I change this from email and add into the search, then let's say what will happen. You can see the autofocus is onto this search automatically. Once I'll refresh this page, you can see I'm going on a refresh button, and once I'll refresh, the focus is automatically onto this search field. So this is the use of the autofocus, and similarly we can supply the height and width attributes to supply the height and width of the input type image, like we use with width and with the image attribute as well. We can also supply the autocomplete attribute to specify whether a form or an input field should have autocomplete on or off. So this is an important attribute to supply autocomplete on or off. So we need to add this autocomplete to complete our form automatically. We'll see this in detail later with the form attributes, some important form attributes. So we had seen this already. We had seen these tags like select tag, we had seen the text area, the button tags, and we had seen some important attributes as well. So that's it for the today's lecture. We'll meet into the next lecture discussing more about HTML forms and some important attributes with the HTML forms, and possibly we'll be talking about the validations of the HTML forms. Thank you so much.